Don't worry. We'll have my dad sit on the other side of the podium so you can see him. And while they're doing that, I'll show you something I wanted to show you. We're around at coffee hour. This is the history of our denomination. This is the early church. So if you grew up Catholic, you're right down here. The early Catholics separated from the Eastern Orthodox, Greece, Syrian, Coptics, Ethiopians, etc. In 1054 because they argued about the calendar. And if you grew up Lutheran in Minnesota, this is you up here. This is basically Europe. And here's the Anglican Church that started in the Church of England when King Henry wanted to get divorced and they excommunicated him. And here's the Lutheran Church that started in Germany a little earlier when Luther hung up his 98 Theses. He was actually a Catholic priest and wanted to reform the church, but they excommunicated him. So they continued in England and Germany for a while, and then this is coming to America. We derive ultimately the Congregationalists from the Anglicans in England, the Church of England, and the Reformed Church, Evangelical Reformed, derives ultimately from the Lutherans in Europe. In 1957, they came together to form the United Church of Christ, and my dad will tell you about that. I also thought it's really not necessary to stand for every hymn. Let's stand for the last three, because those are more upbeat. I don't know if the Puritans and Pilgrims sat or stood for hymns, okay? George.
Good morning. And welcome to the weekly edition of 16 Minutes. And today's report, with the help of this magic stopwatch and this telegraph, and your imagination, will be taking a journey in time to the roots of our denomination, the United Church of Christ.
Dateline. Port of Delfzijl, Leyden, Holland, July 1620. Today, a small group of separatists, defectors from the Church of England, boarded the good but rickety ship Speedwell, bound for London and thence for the northern region of Virginia, to establish a colony for the glory of God. In his farewell address, Pastor John Robinson exhorts them, I charge you before God and his blessed angels, that you follow me no further than you have seen me follow Christ. If God reveal anything to you by any other instrument of his, be ready to receive it, as you were to receive any truth from my ministry. For I am verily persuaded that the Lord hath more truth and light yet to break forth from his holy word. We don't know if they stopped because of late Atlantic storms, or they really didn't want to be ruled by those Anglicans down in Jamestown, or possibly they had just run out of beer.
You're ready for the hymn in the Black Book, verses 1 and 4, and then get to the 5.
419.
419, verses 1 and 4.
All
London, England, 1630. Future Massachusetts Governor John Winthrop speaks to passengers boarding the good ship Arabella, one of 11 vessels carrying over 1,000 Puritans to America this year. Among them was Karen's ancestor, Samuel Pond. Proclaimed Governor Winthrop, we shall be as a city upon a hill, and the eyes of all people are upon us. It's a congregational world in New England, in white clapboard churches with black and dark green shutters on village greens cleared from the woods. Local parishes hire and fire their own pastors, buy, build, or sell their own meeting house properties, establish their own rules of order, and elect their own magistrates. Often, after a rousing election day sermon by the pastor, which any member of the congregation in good standing, male of course, may stand to question or even refute. Is that why we always talk back after sermon? Let's now sing "We Gather Together" from the red hymnal, number 21. We gather together, verses 1 and 3. Yes.
right, go ahead.
All grab it.
Sure. Since I was born to hang on I'm ready but like what against to escape tribulation. In the other place,
State line, Hardwick, Connecticut, 1636. Thomas Hooker was a rebel with a cause, and another of Karen's ancestors. Educated at Cambridge and an Anglican priest, he grew up under the powers of the time, the crown and the archbishop. But in 1636, in the New World, he had added the people. In Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, Hooker writes, people have the power to appoint officers and magistrates. They also have the power to set the bounds and the limitations of their power and the place under which they call them. As well as for the first time, non-church members are empowered to vote. These fundamental orders form the basis for the U.S. Constitution. Meanwhile, the Congregationalists are busy training up ministers, establishing Yale, Harvard, and oh yes, over in Berkeley, the University of California.
These are Thomas Hooker's original notes. My dad took a photograph in the museum in Hartford. Dateline, Judea Para, oh, well, we have him. We're gonna be in the Pilgrim, oh, that was taken out. Got it. As you depart the sanctuary of the white Congregational Church on the Green here in town, two dour countenances stare at you from either side of the north star doors. Their photos taken in 1860. Below can be read, from this church went forth as missionaries to the Lakota Sioux, the brothers Samuel and Gideon Pond. Though they failed to interest the Indians much in New England style farming, the Ponds did establish several community churches, founded the city of St. Paul. Gideon developed a lexicon and writing system, translated the New Testament and several hymns, and Samuel produced a surprisingly complete and balanced ethnography that's still read today. I have one. The Lakota language is still taught in public schools today on the Pine Ridge Reservation, and you heard it in the movie Dances with Wolves. And now we're going to sing Wakantanka Taku Nitawa, Many and Greater Your Names. It's in the Black hymnal, number 3. We'll sing one verse in Lakota and one verse in English.
We'll sing verse 1 and go back.
Yes.
If you have time to read the paragraph at the bottom, it's haunting.
Dateline, Torrington, Connecticut, 1785. Lemuel Haynes, a veteran of the War for Independence and an admirer of George Washington, is ordained to the ministry of the Congregational Church, the first African-American to be ordained. Although he is largely self-educated, Haynes writes extensively about spirituality, federalism, and against slavery. He serves churches in Connecticut, Vermont, and New York. Dateline, South Butler, New York. Antoinette Louisa Brown, a Congregationalist and a graduate of Oberlin College, becomes the first woman in the United States to be ordained to the Christian ministry. A noted public speaker, she addresses the first National Women's Rights Convention in 1850, becomes an abolitionist, and in later years, a suffragette. She lives to vote for Warren G. Harding in 1920, when she is 96 years old. The United Church of Christ now has an Antoinette Brown Award for exemplary ordained UCC women. Let us now sing in the new Black Hymn Hall, 394, In Christ There Is No East or West, verses 1
Through
through 3.
1 to 3, yep.
1, 2, 3.
394.
394, In Christ There Is No East or West.
Dateline, New Haven, Connecticut, 1839. Survivors of the successful rebellion aboard the Spanish slave ship Amistad arrived in New Haven Harbor. Supporters of the African Americans enlist the help of a prominent New York person and Congregationalist, Lewis Tappan. A defense lawyer is procured. Former President John Quincy Adams, also a Congregationalist, carries the legal case to the U.S. Supreme Court. Tappan finds housing and schooling for poor children among the group, raises funds for all to be transported back to Africa, and arranges for one young woman known as Margaret to become a teacher at Oberlin College before she returns to teach in Sierra Leone. Tappan later founds the racially integrated American Missionary Association.
And Oberlin is Polly's alma mater.
And mine.
Wow.
Lewis Tappan and William Lloyd Garrison found American Anti-Slave Society. Other prominent members include Susan Anthony, Lucretia Mott, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Stephen Foster, Wendell Phillips, and Frederick Douglas. Many Quakers and congregations are active in the society. From 1840 to 1870, the provisions of federal labor law hastened across the country. Society publishes an abolitionist newspaper, holds conventions, advocates for temperance, and education and voters' rights for blacks. Many members are also active in the Underground Railroad.
State line, Washington DC, 1866. After the war between the states, the American Missionary Society founds dozens of freedmen's schools across the South. Congregationalists established Howard University in Washington DC. Several other schools later become historically Black colleges and universities. Among those with current ties to the UCC are Tougaloo in Mississippi, Talladega in Alabama, Lemoyne-Owen in Memphis, Tennessee, Fisk in Nashville, Tennessee, Houston-Tillotson in Texas, and Dillard in New Orleans, Louisiana. We're gonna be singing, and I believe this is the first time you get to stand. Lift every voice and sing verses 1 and 3. It's in the New Century Hymnal, the black one, number 593. Verses 1 and 3. Let every sound like the sea, singing song for the big
Big Line, Cleveland, Ohio, June 25th, 1957. The Reverend James E. Wagner, President of the Evangelical Reform Church, and the Reverend Fred Hoskins, President of the Congregational Christian Churches, shake hands at the Uniting General Synod, joining the denominations and forming a new denomination, the United Church of Christ. I was there, my camera was there, my photograph documented that handshake.
Something was wrong with the AP photographer's camera, so my dad's camera picture hit the wires all over the nation. At that time, every newspaper had a religion page on Sunday, including the San Mateo Times. Yeah.
Dateline, Washington DC, 1964. The Reverend Everett Parker, Director of the UCC Office of Communications, successfully petitions the Federal Communications Commission to deny the license renewal to television station WLT in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is half black and half white. The station is all white. In response to the fairness doctrine and equal time provisions of federal law, stations across the country began to suddenly integrate their new staff and eventually their programming.
Dateline, St. Louis, Missouri, 1979. The farm workers striking in California's Central Valley have become victims of escalating violence. Cesar Chavez appeals to the United Church of Christ to support the boycott of table grapes. UCC General Synod Delegate Reverend Malcolm Bertram proposes, let's charter a 747 and take the whole synod to Coachella to bear witness. After interference from the Teamsters, Reverend Bertram manages to find a smaller jet, and 95 delegates fly to California to join the picket lines for a day. The following day, the UCC General Synod votes to support the national grape boycott. Next hymn is the New Century Hymnal, the Black Book 402, De Colores, verse 1 in Spanish and verse 3 in English. 402.
Porque sí se puede, huelga, boycott. Que colores se vistan los campos en la primavera. Que colores son las caferitas que vienen de fuera. Y por eso los grandes amores de otros colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. It's verse 2. Sing, rejoice, every creature that breathes a song to the God of creation. Sing, rejoice, sing to God who surrenders, sing as a preservation. Sing the good news. Sing of love of the Savior, reflecting the glories of God. Giving colors that shine from God's face, giving colors that tell us God's love to be God. Many colors that shine from God's face, many colors that tell us to be God.
Dateline, Hawaii, 1993. UCC President Paul Sherry formally apologized to the indigenous people of Hawaii. President Sherry is sent by the 18th General Synod to recognize the responsibility of Congregationalist missionary in destroying native Hawaiian culture and government and contributing to the economic exploitation of Hawaii's people. Also, $4.5 million in properties are returned to the Hawaiian churches and cultural institutions.
Dateline, San Carlos, California, June 25th, 1972, which incidentally is the real birthday of UCC. William R. Bill Johnson becomes the first openly homosexual person to be ordained to ministry by a mainline Christian church. Members of this congregation, my dad and my mom were there. I was taking care of 2-year-olds next door. In 1985, the UCC General Synod adopted a resolution encouraging local churches to become open and affirming, meaning welcoming, to gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. Now over 1,600 seminaries and local congregations have voted to do so. Today, over 100 openly LGBT clergy serve our churches. In 2005, General Synod approved a resolution supporting marriage equality. Reverend Malcolm Himshoot was the first transgender minister installed in a UCC church in Colorado.
State line, Hartford, Connecticut, which is my hometown. And this just in. Delegates from all 50 states and Puerto Rico converged here in Hartford to attend the 26th General Synod and to celebrate the denomination's 50th anniversary. Keynote presenters include UCC members who were prominent nationally, actress Lynn Redgrave, and the junior senator from Illinois, who soon would be elected. His name?
Our 44th president, yes.
Hussein Obama.
Our last hymn, Weave Us Together, verses 1 and 2. Is it an insert?
It should be an insert in most bulletins.
It isn't.
The words are "we us together in unity and love."
Okay.
And then we'll hear from Stephen Bruni.
We rise together, we rise together in unity and love. We rise together, we rise together in unity and love. We rise together, we rise together in unity and love. We rise together, we rise together in unity.
Signing off for this edition of 16 Minutes. This is your true Stephen Rooney. As you can see, there's really nothing more to say. So as we bid you adieu, in the words of Tiny Tim, God bless us, everyone.
Amen.